Hi, I'm Paul Golden. I'm a midwife and mediator, lecturer and legal advisor on human rights in childbirth. I formed a group called Human Rights Action in Childbirth, which I'll come on to later to discuss Amira's case in Bosnia that's gone to the European Court of Human Rights in Strasbourg. How did I get to be in this position of working with home birth? I was originally studying law. I then worked in remote parts of Australia and realised as a nurse that it would be good to know about childbirth. And women were looking for a calm, confident midwife, would ask me if I would be their midwife. So I did my training in the UK. I then went to New Zealand around 30 years ago when independent midwifery was new there. Now they have almost half the midwives are independent. And as soon as I qualified in the UK, I also worked independently in the UK, and I've often travelled between the two countries, New Zealand, the UK. I do some work in Australia. I've also lectured and taught around Russia, China, India, had some home births there and worked a little bit in Mexico, travelled around the States, but all over Europe and the Baltic countries, the Nordic countries, and of course the Balkans, which is where Amira, who is a doctor having her fourth baby, wanted to have a home birth and her country does not provide home birth. Some countries that do provide it have so many rules. If you've had a previous cesarean, you may not have a home birth. If you're having twins, if you're having a breech, because hospitals seem to be safer. And that's not actually true. The evidence-based research, particularly the research from the UK on the birthplace study, and a lot of other research, Dutch and Norwegian, I think, can be found on sarahwickham.com. Sarah Wickham is a PhD research midwife whose information and website is fantastically helpful to everybody. It's not about arguing that my research is better than your research, but just knowing that it is absolutely safe to have a home birth, and it is absolutely a woman's choice to determine how and where she gives birth. This was decided in the Hungary case around 2010 to 12, Ternavosky versus Hungary in the European Court in Strasbourg. However, since that case, judgments have been a bit weaker and not always gone along with it. That's why this case, currently Amira's case, that's just been filed, we have no idea when to expect them to hear it. And these cases are done on the papers, they're not with people in person. So we've presented the best argument we can, and we will have to wait and see what comes from Strasbourg. I would really encourage other people to take cases, and I would support and help anybody. It's very simple and it can cost nothing, really. The case in Hungary costs €100. If you don't get lawyers, do it yourself, but just get it checked, maybe a panel of people. So I would always support anybody there in the Czech Republic and in any country. I travel around to Lithuania, to Nordic countries. I see the same challenges everywhere globally, that people are being coerced and bullied. There's very little choice, all based on fear. Fortunately, many of us work from love, and midwives especially are focused on love. And it cannot just be a woolly kind of emotional love. It needs to be based on evidence and research. Intuition is an equal balance to research. So does something feel right? Does it feel safe? These are very important questions I ask myself. I always ask myself, what if I'm wrong? When I'm sitting waiting for the most beautiful normal home birth, what if something's going to go wrong? And I've planned for that. I can predict and prevent problems mostly. I'm very experienced with neonatal resuscitation because that was my main job for many years. And I refresh myself with these skills. Therefore, I have less fear. I do have some fear, and I have a great relief when the birth is over and everybody's well and happy. Because as a midwife at home, we feel perhaps a lot more responsibility. There is no team to come in and help us out, but equally, there's no team to come and interfere. So if we really need something, we would transfer. Mostly, everything is perfect at home. I welcome any questions. I hope this made some sense. I've been travelling, working with birth for over 30 years in all these countries, and I'm registered in many countries, plus I have an international license as well. So I welcome other people to learn how you can be more free-range midwife. That's what we need. Hi there, I'm Paul Golden, and together with Amira, who's a doctor in Bosnia, and Kat, a friend who's helped with the legal case, we've put together an application to the European Court of Human Rights in Strasbourg based on Article 8, the right to private and family life, that includes for women to determine how and where to give birth, including home birth. In addition to Article 8, I will mention Article 3, 6 and 14, but just focusing on the basic right for a woman to choose how and where to birth, and that was upheld previously by the same court in Strasbourg, but it hasn't always followed its own rulings previously. So it's important in law to find something distinguishing the current or present case from cases that have failed. And one of the main features is that COVID is around, and that puts more risks for mothers and babies in a way in hospital of contracting COVID, also of having their partners excluded from being there, or their doula, or anybody they choose to be supporting them in labour. Whereas at home, nobody's telling you who you can have in your house for a home birth. Another distinguishing feature is that Amira is a doctor and clearly understands everything. However, I don't think one needs to be a doctor, but it can be persuasive to judges that they're thinking this person who needs protecting is a simple member of the public, or actually this member of the public is a doctor and therefore understands the risks, the benefits of everything. So we know that home birth is safe. Judges don't always see it that way, and hospitals and ministries of health and governments present it as hospital is safe, not home birth. So to counter that argument, we don't need to necessarily focus on the research that shows home birth is safe, just simply that the law allows bodily autonomy. That is, nobody can touch or do something to someone, and nobody can make you go to hospital. Say you're eating or drinking a lot, we're not generally going to send people to hospital if we're judging that they're unsafe. If they have mental capacity, they have a choice of how and where they live and what they do. And this right to private family life cannot be interfered with, except in these current times with COVID. It is interfered with when there's a pandemic, or there's a communicable disease, or any interest of the state. So on one hand, there's the state interest protecting the public, and the individual right to private and family life. So we assert the right to private and family life includes choice for home birth. It's previously been determined by that court, and there's no reason why they should not find this. In fact, every reason why they should find for the claimant in this case. So very briefly, Article 3 is the right not to suffer torture, which includes inhumane, degrading treatment. In Amira's case, she outlines the 3 previous births she had did have degrees of inhumane and degrading treatment. Therefore, it was likely the 4th birth would probably have some inhumane, degrading treatment, because this is common practice, particularly in Bosnian hospitals, probably the world over. Lots of lovely, kind people turn up to work in a hospital, but they end up doing coercive treatments to people, which could include assault, battery, trespass to the person, even sexual violation, doing vaginal examinations against the will, and all sorts of other things, an unwanted cesarean, breaking the waters. So those things happen on a daily basis in most countries, and particularly in Bosnia, they had happened to this claimant. Therefore, she could predict there would be inhumane, degrading treatment based on her experience. Article 6 allows for fair process. We can say that the Constitutional Court that did not agree with her claim, hence the appeal going to the European Court, they didn't properly consider the matter. They are easily led by the hospitals, by the government, and that's not following fair process. That's not such a strong argument. So Article 8 I've mentioned. Article 14 is the right not to be discriminated against. So women are generally discriminated against if there's another part of the population, say men, I mean, obviously men are not giving birth, but if we can show that there's discrimination based on gender or some other protected characteristics, such as a belief system, and the belief in physiological birth, home birth, could be a protected characteristic, just like some environmentalists have been found by the courts to have a protected characteristic because their belief is seen a bit like a religion. So it might be the same for home birth. They're the fundamental basics of this case, and let's see how it goes. Whether it wins or lose or win in parts doesn't matter as much as putting the case in. We need more cases to raise the profile to get to a tipping point of consciousness.